Hi, boys and girls. This is Ms. Kathy. I'm so happy you've joined me today for another story just for you. Walking Goliath. Who was that? Mrs. Wallace asked as Jenny hung up the phone. It was Mrs. Harris from down the street, Jenny answered. She's going to the hospital for an operation, so she wants to know if I will take care of her dog. Oh dear, I hope it's not serious. I'd better call her myself. Then she frowned. She wants you to take care of that big dog, Goliath? Mom, Goliath's not that big. He never growls at me and he always licks my hand. I'm not afraid of him, but I don't know if I want to do it. Sometimes I like to go to Maria's or Dee Dee's after school, or go down the street to play with Lori. Mom nodded. If you agree to help Mrs. Harris, you can't stop the second day just because you have other plans. I know, Jenny agreed, but Mrs. Harris said she would pay me $5 before she goes. I could save the money for those inline skates I want. Can I do it? Well, Mom said, you can't make any money unless you work for someone, and Mrs. Harris has been a nice neighbor to us. I guess it won't be too bad. All you need to do is check on Goliath every day after school, and feed him, I suppose. Jenny nodded, and take him for a walk around the block. See, that's not so bad. The next afternoon, the phone rang as soon as Jenny walked in the door. It was Lori. Jenny, can you come down and play? No, I have to go and take care of Goliath. Mrs. Harris is in the hospital, you know. You want to come and help me? Okay, Lori agreed. Before long, they were both standing beside Goliath's kennel. Goliath was glad to see them. Arroof! Arroof! He jumped up on the fence and reached for them with his long tongue. Gross, Lori squealed. He's slobbering. Jenny ignored her. Mrs. Harris said to walk him first, then give him food and water. Come on, Goliath. We can't go until we get your leash on. Finally, after much licking, the leash clicked on Goliath's collar. Lori opened the kennel gate, and Goliath took off like a shot. Whoa! Jenny shouted. Slow down, Goliath. Lori, help me hold him back. With both girls hanging on one end of the leash and Goliath pulling on the other, they began their walk around the block. Okay, boys, settle down, Jenny called to the dog. You're going to do this all by yourself? Lori asked. Not for long, I hope. Jenny shook her head. Only a week or so. I'm saving the money I make to buy a pair of inline skates like yours. 2 days later, just after supper, Jenny answered the phone. It was Maria. Jenny, we're going to the park tomorrow. Mom says she'll stop by and pick you up from school if you can go. Sure, Jenny said. Then she remembered. Oh, no, I can't. I'm taking care of a neighbor's dog every day after school. Later, Jenny griped at Goliath. I could be out having fun if it weren't for you, she said. Goliath looked up at her with sad eyes. I know, Jenny said, petting his head. It's not your fault, but I'll be glad when your owner gets home. Later that week, Jenny managed to smile. Just one more day, then Mrs. Harris comes home, she said to her mother. And I sure am glad. Lori invited me to her house after school on Friday. Well, Jenny, Mom replied, we need to talk about that. I heard from the hospital today that Mrs. Harris isn't getting well as fast as they had hoped. She'll have to stay for a few more days. Jenny felt bad for Mrs. Harris, but she felt bad for herself, too. Why can't I just stop taking care of Goliath, she asked. He's not my dog. I already worked my $5 worth. But he is your responsibility, Mom answered. You promised to take care of him. He needs food and water and exercise every day, whether you feel like it or not. I know, Jenny said softly. I'll do it. But she wasn't happy. That night, when she read her Sabbath school lesson, she thought about Joseph. I'm sure he didn't want to go to Egypt, and I know he didn't feel like working hard in that jail, but he did it anyway. I wonder why. Then she found out why. Joseph decided he would always serve God no matter what happened. He worked hard to do what he was asked because that was how he served God, by helping others. Jenny put her lesson book down. I wonder if I'm serving God by helping Mrs. Harris, she asked out loud. I guess God would want me to keep doing it, even if it is hard. More than another whole week went by. Jenny stood in the doorway of her house looking out into the rain. Do I really have to go? She asked her mother. Goliath is just as hungry on rainy days, Mom answered. He'll think walking in the rain is great fun. Well, I won't, Jenny mumbled. She grumbled to Goliath again, too. I hope you're happy, she told the tail-wagging dog. I missed a trip to the mall with Dee Dee because of you today. They hadn't gone far when Goliath spotted a cat. "Aroof! Aroof!" His sudden jump pulled Jenny right off her feet and into her flower garden. "Whoa! Stop, Goliath!" Jenny shouted, hanging onto the leash. She saw the mud puddle coming and put her hands over her face. Goliath raced away. Jenny just lay there wiping the mud off her face. "I'll never catch that dog," she thought. "I wish I had never thought of buying those skates." Suddenly, she felt a warm, wet tongue on her ear. "Goliath, stop that! Now come on, let's go." Later that evening, the doorbell rang. Jenny opened the door. "Hello," the man said. "Are you the girl taking care of Mrs. Harris's dog?" Jenny nodded. She just knew it was bad news. "If it was your flower bed we ran through, I'm sorry, I'll pay for the broken flowers. If it's not more than $5, that's all I have." The man laughed. No, I'm Mrs. Harris's son. She's going to be coming home with me for a while, so I've come to get Goliath, and to thank you for taking care of him so faithfully. Here, this is for you. Goodbye." Jenny took the envelope he offered and ran back to the kitchen. "Mom, Mrs. Harris's son came to get Goliath. They're both going to stay with him." She opened the envelope. "Look what he gave me. Enough money to buy those skates I want." Mom smiled. "That's a good reward for being faithful even when it's hard." Jenny laughed out loud. "Now I know what Joseph felt like. Except God didn't rescue me from prison. He rescued me from Goliath."
The story you have heard today is from the Shoebox Kids Bible Stories, written by Jerry D. Thomas and used with permission from the Pacific Press Publishing Association. If you're interested in any other books published by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, please visit AdventistBookCenter.com or call 1-800-765-6955.
This podcast is a production of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.